Hello everyone and welcome to the channel, and also welcome to the first tutorial I'm making for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. So today we'll be going over a quick setup guide to start up the Airbus A32NX mod from FlyByWire simulations. So I have it here in the American livery, and I'm at LAX Airport, Terminal 5, Gate 46B. So we're going to go ahead and get inside the cockpit and get this plane started up. So instead of explaining everything in detail, I'm going to show you all the procedures of how to set up the aircraft, and only that. I'm only going to show you that. Now, I could go into depth and explain what each button and function does in this airplane, but that would take a lot of time, and I find that most people just want to be able to fly the aircraft. So I will be just showing you how to set everything up. And if you'd like, there are many resources out there where you can find explanations behind all the systems of this aircraft. Also, one more thing I recommend that you have is a Simbrief flight plan. You can make an account with them, and there are many tutorials. I'll put a link to one in the description on how to create a Simbrief account and flight plan. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start the setup of this Airbus A32NX. So I've got my checklist here, and first thing we're going to do is go to the overhead panel, turn both batteries on, turn the external power on, then we're going to set all of our three aiders to the nav. Then we're going to turn all of our fuel pumps on. Then we're going to go ahead and verify engine bleeds 1 and 2 are on. They are on. Then we're going to go ahead and turn crew oxygen supply on. Then we're going to set emergency lights to armed, strobe lights to automatic, nav and logo lights to on, no smoking, and seatbelt signs. One thing you can also do is set the air conditioning. So I'm going to turn it a little bit cooler in here, as it's been hot the past few days in Los Angeles. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is check our fire alarms for our engines and auxiliary power unit. So you can do that by pressing and holding this round test button. The warning is heard, so that's good. Sometimes you will accidentally open this button cover here, so just be careful. All alarms are working, and we can go ahead and go to the initialization on the MCDU. Clear the messages. Go ahead to FMGC, verify your engines and your AIRAC cycle are in date and correct. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and head to the initialization page. So after this, you can go ahead and put your from and to, which is basically your airport of origin and your airport of destination. So in this case, LAX will be KLAX, and we're going to Dallas Fort Worth today, so KDFW. You can hit return. Now inputting our flight number 459er. Cost index is indicated on our flight plan, and it will be 34 today. Cruising flight level and temperature. You can just put in the flight level and the Airbus will automatically calculate the temperature. So cruising flight level will be 39,000 feet today, flight level 390. After all this is done, you can head over to the IRS initialization and click Align on Reference and confirm align. And this will just align all of the navigation equipment on the aircraft. Hit return and head to the second page of initialization by pressing the arrow pointing right, and you'll see we'll have our zero fuel weight center of gravity. Now what you're going to want to do is go ahead and take a look at your flight plan and find the fuel. Find the fuel required. For our flight, we're going to be needing 7,823 kilograms. So you can go ahead and head over to the fly pad, which is a cool feature on the FlyByWire aircraft mod. Tap it and it will start to turn on. And once you're loaded, you can head to the clipboard or dispatch and head to fuel. So, since we are required to have about 7,000, 8,000 kilograms of fuel on board today, we can put that to just a little bit more. So, a safe amount would be about 9,000 kilograms. Again, this is just all mental math. This is just nothing real world. And then you can press this little YouTube play button right here, and then it will set your fuel tanks to the desired capacity. Once that's done, you can go ahead and head back to your MCDU. And zero fuel weight, I can explain these real quick. Zero fuel weight is just the weight of the aircraft with passengers and cargo without fuel. So what you're going to do is just go to the fuel and weight and balances menu, and you're going to take the total weight of the aircraft, which is 139,754, and subtract the fuel weight, which is 20,155. And that will be 119,599 pounds. So, Airbus likes the weight in tons, so what we're going to do is convert that to tons real quick. And we get 59.79. So what you're going to go ahead and do is input 59.79, and then to format it, you'll put a slash here, and then you'll want the zero fuel weight center of gravity, and this can just be found again under the weight and balances page, and it will be right here, center of gravity 25.0. So input that number there. Something happened here. I'm just going to go ahead. So the GPS primary message came up, and what that means is that the navigation display and GPS is now functional. So it just cleared what I had written earlier, so I'm just going to go ahead and write it again, 59.79, and format it with a slash, and put 25.0. Now you're going to want to put in your block fuel, which can be found on the upper ECAN display. Fuel on board is 9,140 kilograms, and they want that in, I believe, metric tons, so you can move the decimal point 3 times to the left. And input that into your block fuel. And now the second initialization page is set up. and you can go ahead and move on to the flight plan. So you can click F-PLN, and you'll see it will be quite a intricate screen here. So you're going to go ahead and clear this discontinuity by pressing the clear button and the left hand soft key next to the discontinuity. The best way to describe the MCDU is that it works sort of like an ATM. The button next to the text on the screen is what the button is going to do. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is input our waypoints and airways from our Simbrief flight plan into the flight plan on the MCDU. So for our first waypoint on my flight plan, we have CNERY, CNERY, and you're going to input that onto your destination, and the waypoint will go directly above what you press. So we're going to press this, and you'll see it rearranges the deceleration point, and now we have our waypoint in there. And next, after that, we have a direct to BLH. Anytime you see DCT on your flight plan, that just means direct. It does not stand for a waypoint, it is just direct. So we're going direct to BLH. So you can click the waypoint that you just came from, and you'll see it says next waypoint. What you're going to do is type in BLH, or your waypoint that is next, that you're going direct to, and put it into next waypoint. Now you'll see there'll be two options. So in this case you have to use some common sense, and in this case we'll be flying a 3-hour flight from LAX to Dallas-Fort Worth, so I highly doubt we'll be flying 5,901 nautical miles. So this obvious choice would be this first one right here. After you've done that, you can continue to put in your waypoints, and in this case we have an airway after BLH, so you'll click BLH, then hit Airways, and our airway will be J169. So you can type in your airway and input it into this VIA box. And you'll see there'll be more boxes that appear, and after J69 we're going to waypoint TFD. And after TFD, we'll be taking airway J50. Taking a while to load there. There we go. And then after J50, we'll be going to waypoint SSO. Then after waypoint SSO, we'll be going to airway J4. Then after airway J4, we'll be going to waypoint Inc. And after this waypoint, we have no more airways, so you can click Insert. And after waypoint Inc., we'll be going directly to waypoint Geeky. And that will be the end of our flight plan. So you can click Insert, and you'll see that there'll be some more waypoints on the list than we actually put in, and that's because in an airway there will be multiple waypoints along the airway, and the flight computer will automatically put those waypoints in the flight plan even though you didn't add them. So don't panic, your flight plan is perfectly fine. It just is adding automatically new waypoints to your flight plan that are on the airways you'll be taking. So once that's done, you can go ahead and go to the knob over here and select plan mode for your navigation display. And I'll turn up the brightness a little bit too. My mouse is disappeared. There it is. Come on. There we go. So you can turn up the brightness. And you can actually scroll down your flight plan and check to make sure there's no weird loops, veer-offs, or any unwanted turns or anything in the flight plan that should not be there. For the most part, it looks like we have a straight line, or straight lines plural, and we end up at our destination without veering far off course. So our flight plan looks good, and I'd say that it's complete. One more thing you want to do is set your departures and arrivals. So you'll hit your origination airport, and you'll click departures, and you'll have a list of runways. And today we'll be departing on runway 25 right, SIDS none, and insert. You'll see there'll be another discontinuity. You can go ahead and clear that. And you can go ahead and scroll down to our destination, click on that, and click arrivals. Now we'll be using runway 31 left at Dallas Fort Worth, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and I would like to do an ILS approach, so I'm going to go ahead and find an ILS for 31 left. They may not have an ILS for 31 left, so in that case, I'll just use runway 31 right. Although that one's a little bit shorter. So I have not flown into Dallas Fort Worth in the flight simulator before, so I am not too familiar with the airport. So let's do one right. No stars. Insert. And you'll see that if you look at your flight plan again in plan mode, it will have added the departures and arrivals. So you can scroll down. And you'll see it circles right into Dallas Fort Worth, 31 right. So what you can go ahead and do is close out of the flight plan tab now that it's complete, and you have set your departures and arrivals. There's a little bit of a weird hook right here. So one thing you can do to fix that is try adding a SID, a standard instrument departure, I believe is what it's called. So you can go back down to your MCDU, click on KLAX, departures, and scroll down to your desired runway, 25 right, and on your flight plan there should be what looks like a waypoint and an airway combined. So in my case it's .SS2, so you can go ahead and look for that on there. And in this case it's not there, so we can just pick one. Oh, there it is. Use .SS2 and insert that. And you can go ahead and look again at your flight plan. And you'll see that we have straight out departure here. Zoom out a little bit. There's a little glitch with the mouse that I have to keep going outside the aircraft to get the mouse to be visible again, so please excuse that. There's nothing I have found that fixes the issue. If you guys do know, please let me down in the comments section below. So as you can see, we are making our loop here, and this helps eliminate any weird takeoff patterns. So you can go ahead, set it back to your desired view mode, return to the MCDU, and go to your performance. So performance will be this button here, and in this case we're going to be setting our V1, VR, and V2 speeds. So to do that, you'll need to insert your planned flap setting for takeoff, which will be 1. LAX has pretty decent sized runways, so we will not be needing anything greater than that. And our transition altitude, we'll need to put that in, and in the United States it's 18,000 feet, and you will not be using a flight level, you'll be putting the full number in this one. Now you can just press the button next to the V1 and press again, and it will enter the value in there automatically. Press once, press again, press once, press again, and your V1, VR, and V2 speeds are set. After that, you can go ahead and go to the MCDU menu, go to ATSU, AOC menu, and we're going to get a weather request. And you can click send. And what this will do is give us a little paper with a METAR on it, so we can input the current weather of our destination airport in on the ILS. It will also give us other useful information like QNH at our current airport here at LAX, so we can set that for takeoff, and as well as some other notices about the clouds, wind, visibility, and all the other details you may need to know. So once that's sent, you can return to the AOC menu and go to received messages, and you'll see we have a METAR, and you can go ahead and print that, and that will actually print out of this little thing right here. And you can grab that, and it will put it right here, and you'll see our weather information is right here. So you can go back to your performance, go to next phase until you reach the approach phase, ILS 31 right. You'll see at Dallas Fort Worth we have clear skies, 20 degrees, a QNH of 30.11 inches of mercury, And that's pretty much it. So what you can go ahead and do is put in your QNH, which is 30.11. Plug that in there. Our temperature, which should be 20. And our wind, which will be heading 330 at 17 knots, so a little bit gusty it looks like. And our transition altitude is still, we are still in the US, so our transition altitude will be 18,000 once again. Put that in. And the only thing left that we'll need is the deciding altitude height, which we'll put in this barrow section here under the approach. I will cover later in a later video in more detail about the ILS approach, but for now we're just going over the setup of the aircraft until takeoff. So let's go ahead and get on setting up the aircraft for pushback. So you can go ahead and head to your autopilot panel, and you can set your altitude to your cruising altitude. Make sure your flight director's on. Set the QNH, which we can check at Los Angeles, is 2988. I read that right. Let's see. Yes. So our QNH is set, our cruising altitude is set. Now we can take a look at this bottom panel here. We can go ahead and lock our cockpit door, set predicted wind shear to automatic, set TCAS to Tara, and turn our ATC to on. Or excuse me, ATC to auto, not ATC to on. Turning ATC from standby to auto. So, once that's set, we can go ahead and put these ground spoilers up. I don't know why these are out. I don't know why the flaps are out either. Put those in. And you can go ahead and go to your overhead panel. And you're going to click the APU master switch on. And click the starter on as well. And you can go ahead and set your beacon lights on. Turn your landing lights on. Set your nose to taxi. Verify your seatbelts and no smoking are on. And we should be good to go. Now we are just waiting for our APU to finish starting. One thing I will say while we are waiting for our APU to start is that in this game, the ATC has never worked very well, so I will just be completely disregarding their instructions and not using them at all. I have set the traffic to off, so we should not run into any other planes or anything, so there's no AI traffic, there's no live traffic, and there's no live players. So we should be good to go, and we should not have to listen to ATC. Now that your APU is available, you can go ahead and turn your APU bleed on. And once that has sort of revved up, you can hear it in the background, you can turn your external power off. Now the aircraft is completely electrically powered, and self-sustained, so we can go ahead and start our pushback. I like to use the key command Shift-P to start pushback, and then you can go over to the ATC menu while they're lining up, tune to ground, go to ground services, and you'll see that we have some options to steer the pushback. Also, I like to set my camera, and I like showcase view 12, and you'll see that we have a little bit of a safety announcement, which is pretty cool. And you can go ahead and release the parking brake. And since the runway is to our right, we will want to steer the tail of the plane to the left. You can look outside. We're going to want to start steering to the left any second now.
Los Angeles ground American 459er requesting pushback tug to steer the aircraft to the left.
And looks like there's a car that's driving right up to us. Some of these little ground vehicles and other people standing by, it's pretty funny to see how they have sort of no regard for the aircraft driving right by them. So it looks like we are a little bit late on the turn. That's okay. We can stop pushback by pressing Shift-P, setting the parking brake. And you can go ahead and set your engine mode selector to ignition start. And you're going to want to turn engine number 1 on. While that's happening, we can go ahead and turn our ECAM brightnesses up. Turn the co-pilot's first officer's display brightness up. Turn our autopilot panel brightness up. Turn our backup brightness up. And we will be waiting for our engine to say avail right here. Once it says avail, you can go ahead and flip the switch for engine number 2. So just wait for that. Engine 1 is avail. You can set engine master switch 2 to the on position.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
So our engine number 2 is now avail, and we can set our engine mode selector back to mode normal. Now that our engine mode selector is set to normal, we can go ahead and set our flaps to 1, the takeoff position, and arm our ground spoilers. You can see the flaps, or the leading edge slats, extending right there. And now that all of our engines are turned on, we can go ahead and turn our APU off, as our engines will be providing the electrical power needed for the aircraft. So you can turn your APU bleed off, then turn off the master switch. And normally this is where you would request taxi clearance, but since the ATC has just been really not quite great in Flight Simulator lately, I've decided to just fly under pilot's own discretion. So we're going to go ahead and follow the taxiways down to runway 25 right. So we're going to go ahead and enter the runway here. Braked a little too much. Notify the cabin crew. Set takeoff configuration. Set our lights to taxi, or excuse me, set our nose lights to takeoff. And on the center line here, verify we have 7,800 kilograms of fuel required, 9,260 on board, and we are ready for takeoff. Throttle to 40%. Verify your engines are stable, and bring them up to toga. Keep the stick half back pressure forward. Once you pass 100, you're neutral and V1 rotate. Positive rate of climb, gear up. And there's ATC telling us we're not cleared to take off, but who cares? This is a flight simulator, so bring it up to 15 degrees of climb, follow your flight director, start wanting to make that turn to the left a little bit, bring in your flaps, don't quite retract from toga thrust yet. Now you may do so. Auto thrust is already engaged, so it'll keep us at 250 knots since we're below 10,000 feet. You can go ahead and engage autopilot. Select 39,000 feet. And your aircraft has begun the climb out stage. Once we pass through 18,000 feet, we can set our altimeter to standard, as transition altitude is when you transition from the altimeter setting on the ground to the standard 29.902 inches of mercury, or 1013 hectopascals. After you've taken off, you can go ahead and retract the landing lights. Turn off your nose lights. Turn off the beacon. And turn off your nav and logo, but leave your strobes on automatic. You can also let the cabin crew know that you've passed through 10,000 feet. Now that you've passed through 18,000 feet, you can go ahead and set our altimeter to standard. You can just do that by pulling out, just like that. And now the aircraft will follow its course up to its cruising altitude and head all the way over to Dallas-Fort Worth. So I thank you guys for watching the video today. Please consider giving it a like and a subscribe, and feel free to comment down below with any questions or any suggestions for new videos. As always, I thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.